Willis, this brings us to one of your most influential works, the Restored New Testament, in which you finally include what has been left out, much of what's been left out, the Gnostic Gospels of Thomas, Mary, and Judas. Tell us what the Gnostic Gospels are and why you felt so compelled to restore the New Testament.
Those three Gnostic texts are, first of all, they're magnificent. And they offer an alternative version to what became the Christian tradition. I mean, in Judas, you have Judas, which means the Jew, Yehuda, in Hebrew, not being the villain, but he is actually the hero, because Jesus commands him, and he reluctantly fights him over it, but he agrees, you must have me arrested so that my soul will go immediately to heaven, and what they will be crucifying on the cross will just be a mere body, which is not Jesus Christ. That's very revolutionary.
Cynthia, does this resonate with you? And how does it connect with your devotion to restoring the Mary Magdalene story? Especially the curious, baffling transition between the early description of her as being the apostle to the apostles, and then this wide abyss when she is now regarded as the penitent whore. What happened?
Well, I think there was a deliberate move. And you can sort of locate this quarter amongst the disciples that it emanated from. All you have to do is read the Gospel of Mary Magdalene and Thomas to realize that Peter was pretty threatened, and the people that were there. And I think they closed ranks. And you see the story deliberately, increasingly edited so that she's made voiceless. The idea that's dominated the popular imagination that she's a whore was not introduced until 594 by Pope Gregory I. It's not in the scriptures at all, but nowadays it's dominated the tradition. Certainly Luke handed it to Gregory on a silver platter.
And women have a very bad time in the New Testament, in great contrast. There are so many women heroes in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Bible. In the New Testament, women are put down.
I think that Willis is absolutely correct that one of the things that happens when we have these restored texts is we have a much more balanced vision of women. We also have a much more balanced vision of the transformational tradition of Jesus. And these texts have come to us at exactly the right time to break open this little hard knot of what ossified as the New Testament 1,600 years ago, and say, this is how the first generation and second generation of Jesus followers received this beautiful, beautiful, puzzling gift that had fallen into their midst.
Willis, could you indulge us with your definition of Gnosticism?
Well, it's, good Lord, Gnosticism essentially rejects the notion of external things happening to us. We are not delivered to another world. We are delivered to ourselves when we join that spark, which is also in everybody. And when we can become that spark, that inner light, very much like the Quakers, then we are actually saved. And so death before our life and death after our life means nothing.
Cynthia, I suspect you have a different apprehension of Gnosticism. Can you share it with us?
Yeah, I would say that the term gnosis, if you go back to the Greek, actually means knowledge. And in the first people that are talking about the problems, these folks weren't called the Gnostics. They were called the heretics. I think it's the perennial philosophy in disguise or taking ever different forms throughout the ages.
And they're quite different one from another. But there is this thread that you have mentioned of knowledge. And the basic aspect of knowledge is that we must know, understand reasonably before we can then have faith. Faith comes before knowledge in Christianity. In Gnosticism, knowledge comes first. And that is a huge difference.
Yes.
A huge difference.